Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today, we're diving into premarital financial coaching. And, you've brought some really interesting sources on this
Yeah.
from Joe Gendron and Daria Stellwag. I have to say, when I first heard about premarital financial coaching, I was a little skeptical.
Really?
Yeah. I thought money and romance are those two things that even go together.
Right.
But the more I read the material you sent, the more I realized there's a lot more to it.
Yeah.
It's about building that trust,
Yeah.
aligning your visions for the future,
That's
and honestly just creating a less stressful dynamic when it comes to finances in a relationship.
less stress, more
Yeah.
success, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's really cool about this is that it kind of reframes money,
Okay.
instead of it being a source of conflict,
Right.
it can actually be a tool to strengthen the bond you have as a couple.
Yeah. That's such a good point. So before we get into the specifics,
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit more about these coaches, Joe and Daria?
What makes them the dream team for this kind of thing?
Well, so Joe Gendron, he's the owner of Agile Coaching Strategies, and he brings this expertise in Agile coaching, which is all about adapting to situations
Right.
and finding solutions that work for, any individual or couple.
Mm-hmm.
He's got this amazing ability to help people really zero in on their values
Yeah.
and figure out what their goals are, and that's so important when you're dealing with money, right?
Absolutely.
And then we have Daria Stellwag, who runs Daria's Budgeting Center.
Okay.
Now, she is incredible with numbers and has a real passion for giving people that control over their own finances.
So it sounds like they have the perfect balance between
Mhm.
strategy and the practical,
Right.
which makes sense because, finances aren't just about crunching numbers.
No,
It's so much more than that, right?
absolutely.
It's about understanding your relationship with money.
Exactly. And that's where their combined expertise really, I think, clicks.
Okay.
They help couples explore those deeper levels, like how your past experiences.
Maybe how you were brought up, how that might influence your current financial habits.
That's so interesting.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
once you understand those underlying things, you can start making better choices as a couple.
That makes a lot of sense. So I'm guessing one of the first things they do is help couples figure out where they stand financially,
Definitely.
kind of like a financial inventory.
Absolutely.
Okay.
So one of the key areas they focus on is helping couples figure out what they call their financial foundation.
Okay.
And that means you're taking stock of everything,
Okay.
your assets, your debts, credit scores.
Mm-hmm.
And they even talk about having those sometimes tough conversations about past financial mistakes.
Yeah, it's got to be all out on the table.
It's about transparency,
Yeah.
laying it all out there so you can build from a place of honesty.
Okay. So full financial disclosure check.
Yes.
But I imagine it's not just about, knowing those numbers.
Uh-huh.
It's about understanding each other's money personalities too, right?
Definitely. Like, are you a spender? Are you a saver?
Yes.
Do you prioritize experiences or security?
You nailed it.
Okay.
But that's another big one.
Okay.
They help couples really dig into those unspoken beliefs,
Right.
values that are driving all these money decisions.
Yeah, because I could see, a couple thinking they're arguing about, you know, going out to eat versus cooking at home, but it's really something deeper.
Exactly.
Right.
It could be spontaneity versus planning
Right.
or
Yeah.
indulgence versus frugality.
Wow. So money's really just a lens through which you can better understand yourself and your partner.
Yeah, absolutely.
But how do you even begin to have those conversations, especially if money has been kind of a taboo topic?
That's where I think the structure of their program is so helpful.
Okay.
It's a safe, supportive space for couples to go through these things.
Yeah.
They've got all these different techniques they introduce.
They're
We're
definitely-
communicating about money, like how to actively listen,
Right.
how to say what you need without blaming, and how to find compromises.
So it's like a communication playbook
Yeah,
for money, which
Mhm.
could be so valuable, especially when you're first starting out.
absolutely.
But what about the bigger picture?
Yeah.
Do they help couples with setting financial goals for the future too?
Oh, absolutely. Joe and Daria really believe that, envisioning your future together
Uh-huh.
is such a powerful way to get closer as a couple.
Okay.
So they actually walk couples through this process of figuring out their shared dreams.
So,
Whether that's buying a home, starting a family, traveling the world, retiring early, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And then they break those down into smaller steps to create a real roadmap.
so it's cool. So they're turning these financial goals into a shared adventure.
Exactly.
That's so cool. But let's face it, not everybody starts at the same place financially. What about couples that are, struggling to make ends meet?
That's a really important point, and something Joe and Daria care deeply about. They really believe that everybody deserves to have this kind of guidance no matter what their financial situation looks like. So they've actually created this fund
Right.
that allows them to offer these coaching services at a lower cost or even for free.
Wow, that's incredibly generous.
Yeah.
It really speaks to their commitment to, helping people.
Yeah, and it just shows that, financial well-being isn't just about how much money you have.
Right.
It's about having that control over your money,
Right.
regardless of your starting point.
Okay, so we've talked about, understanding your financial foundation, comparing expectations,
Yes.
setting goals,
Yeah.
and the fact that this coaching is accessible to couples, even those facing challenges.
Yeah.
What else makes this program so unique?
One of the things that really stands out to me
Okay.
is that they don't just give you like a cookie-cutter budget plan.
Right.
They work with each couple to develop a system that really works for them.
Okay.
Every relationship's different.
So there's no one-size-fits-all when it comes to finances.
So it's more of a partnership than just telling them what to do,
Exactly.
which I love because it should feel good for both people, right?
Precisely. And what's really beautiful about this is that it's not just about managing money. It's about strengthening the relationship at the same time.
Okay.
You're learning to communicate.
Right.
You're building that trust.
Yeah.
And creating a more solid foundation for the future.
So this is starting to sound a lot less like a chore and a lot more like an investment.
It's an investment that pays off big time.
I love that. So we've got a pretty good understanding of who Joe and Daria are, their approach to premarital financial coaching and the things they focus on with couples.
Yeah.
But before we wrap up this part,
Okay.
I'm curious to hear your take on something.
Okay.
We've talked a lot about the practical side of things, but what about the emotional side?
Oh, that's a huge piece of the puzzle. Yeah. How does that financial well-being impact our happiness?
That's such a great question, and it often gets overlooked.
Right.
When you feel secure about money and like you have control, it has this massive impact on your emotions. It can really lower stress and anxiety.
Right.
It can boost your confidence, and it even frees up your mind
Interesting.
to focus on the other important things, like your relationship.
So it's almost like that stability creates peace of mind.
Exactly.
You could just be more present and engaged.
Yes. And on the flip side, if you're constantly worried about money,
Right.
that creates so much tension in a relationship.
Yeah.
It can lead to resentment. You start blaming each other and people just withdraw.
It's almost like financial stress casts a shadow over everything.
It does.
Yeah, including the relationship.
It's really powerful and highlights why it's so important to deal with these issues, especially when you're making a commitment like marriage.
This has been so insightful.
Oh,
It feels
yeah.
like we've only just scratched the surface, though.
Yeah.
But before we go to the next part of our deep dive,
Okay.
I want to leave our listeners with something to think about.
Oh, I like it.
Okay, so think back to a time when you and your partner disagreed about money. What was at the heart of that conflict? Was it about the money, or was it something deeper like values or communication styles?
That's deep.
Yeah, and how did that impact your relationship,
Yeah.
both in the short term and long term?
That's a great question.
It's just something to think about
Yeah.
as we head into part 2.
It reminds us that understanding those emotional dynamics is key.
Exactly.
It's just as important as the numbers
Right.
when you're building a healthy financial future together.
Exactly. So take some time to reflect on that, and we'll be back soon with part 2 of our deep dive into premarital financial coaching.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to the deep dive. I hope you had some time to reflect on that question about past money disagreements with your partner.
Yeah, it's amazing how those conflicts can reveal so much, isn't it?
It is.
About our values and how we communicate.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in this part of our deep dive, I want to kind of dig into some scenarios that couples often face. Because let's be real, merging two financial lives can be tricky even with the best intentions.
It's like navigating a minefield sometimes.
That's a great analogy.
Even for those who are, deeply in love and committed.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
So let's start with one of the classics, the spender versus saver dynamic.
Okay.
I feel like almost every couple has some version of this.
Pretty much, yeah.
Where one person's a little more free with their spending and the other's a little more cautious.
Yeah.
How did Joe and Daria help couples navigate this in their program?
Well, it often goes back to those, deeper values and experiences we talked about. Like somebody who grew up with financial instability might be more inclined to save.
Makes sense.
Whereas someone who always had their needs met might be more comfortable spending.
Okay, so it's not about just telling one person to spend less or the other to loosen up.
No.
It's about understanding those tendencies and finding that middle ground.
Exactly. And neither approach is right or wrong.
Okay.
It's about what works for them.
Right.
And that usually involves a bit of both saving and spending.
So what are some practical strategies that they might suggest for couples dealing with this? I imagine separate spending accounts could help.
That's a big one.
Yeah.
It gives each person a sense of control while still maintaining that shared system for the household and long-term goals.
Okay.
But it's not just about the mechanics.
Right.
Joe and Daria also guide them through those conversations about what their priorities are with spending and how to make that work for both of them.
So it's not about just dividing the pie. It's about making sure both people are happy with how it's used.
Yes. And recognizing that those priorities can change.
Of course.
What was important 5 years ago might not be now. So it's about keeping those lines of communication open.
Yeah, that's so important.
And adapting as you go through life together.
Absolutely. And that makes me think about another big one.
Okay.
Debt. What if someone enters a marriage with a lot of debt?
Yeah.
That can feel like a huge weight to carry.
It can.
Both financially and emotionally.
You're right. Debt can be a really tough topic, but Joe and Daria tackle it head on.
Okay.
They help couples understand the different types of debt, explore ways to pay it off, and create a plan that feels manageable.
So it's not about making anyone feel bad about their past.
No, not at all.
Or like they need to be debt-free before they can get married.
It's about facing it as a team.
Right.
And finding that solution together.
And often just having that open conversation can relieve a lot of the stress.
Oh, absolutely. Secrets and shame just erode trust. But transparency and a plan can really strengthen your bond.
It's like they're not just financial advisors, they're relationship coaches too.
I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
Their approach to finances is so connected to building a strong relationship. Yeah. They're teaching you how to talk to each other, solve problems together, and support each other.
Which are skills that benefit every part of your life.
Absolutely, not just your bank account.
Right. It's like they're giving you a toolkit for life in general.
Exactly. And one you can adapt as your life changes.
Okay, so we've talked about different spending habits.
Yes.
Tackling debt. What about those huge life decisions?
Oh, yeah.
Like buying a house.
Yeah.
Or starting a family.
Big ones.
Those can be exciting, but also scary from a money perspective.
Oh, absolutely. Those milestones come with so many emotions, and that's why Joe and Daria spend a good chunk of their program focused on that.
So they're not just focused on the now. They're helping couples actually plan for their future.
They are. They help couples figure out if they're financially ready, explore all the different options, and create a plan that fits their values.
I bet those conversations can be really eye-opening.
Oh, for sure. It's not just about the numbers.
Right.
It's about what kind of life you want to build together.
Yeah.
And what you're willing to give up to get there.
Like if your dream is to have a big house in a certain area, maybe you have to wait a little longer to start a family or travel less.
Exactly. It's about being honest with each other.
Right.
And making choices that support your shared vision.
It's like creating a roadmap for your future. But not just about getting to the destination, but enjoying the journey together.
That's a great way to put it. And it reminds me, they also emphasize celebrating your wins.
Oh, that's so important.
Yeah. It's easy to get caught up in the stress and forget to acknowledge all the progress you're making.
It's like injecting some fun into the financial planning process.
It makes the whole thing less overwhelming and more like an adventure you're taking together.
This has been so insightful.
Good.
I'm already feeling inspired. But before we go to part 3,
where
we're going to really get into the emotional side of things.
Right.
I want to touch on one more challenge.
Okay.
Communication breakdowns.
Yes. Even the most loving couples can struggle with that.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Especially when you add money to the mix.
Yeah, when stress is high, emotions run high.
For sure. And you mentioned earlier communication tools.
Right.
Can you tell us a little more about those?
Sure. So they introduce things like active listening.
Okay.
Which means really hearing your partner, not interrupting or jumping in with your own thoughts.
Right.
They also encourage couples to use I statements.
Okay.
To talk about their needs without blaming.
It's amazing how small changes like that can really shift the tone of a conversation.
They really can. And they also teach couples how to spot those bad communication patterns.
Right, like the ones we talked about before.
Yeah, criticism, contempt, all of that.
Okay.
It's about staying curious about your partner's perspective even when you disagree.
That's so important.
And finding ways to compromise.
So it's like a crash course in healthy communication.
It is.
Which can help way beyond just finances.
Absolutely. These skills can transform any relationship.
So we've covered a lot.
We have.
Spending habits, debt planning for big life events, and even communication.
It's a lot to think about.
It is.
Yeah.
But as we wrap up part 2,
okay,
I want to leave you with a question.
Okay, hit me.
What's one little step you can take this week
Okay.
to improve how you and your partner communicate about money? It could be scheduling a time to chat,
Okay.
expressing appreciation for something they do well financially,
Yeah.
or just really listening during your next money conversation.
That's a great challenge.
Yeah, just remember, even small changes can make a difference.
Absolutely. They create momentum.
We'll be back soon with part 3, where we're going to explore the connection between financial and emotional well-being.
Looking forward to it.
Welcome back to the Deep Dive. Are you ready for the final part of our exploration into premarital financial coaching?
I am. It's been fascinating, and I'm excited to see how it all comes together.
Me too. So we've covered a ton of practical stuff like understanding your finances, setting goals, and dealing with things like debt and spending habits.
Yeah, we've hit a lot of the big ones.
But in this last part, I want to shift gears a bit.
Okay.
I want to talk about the emotional side of financial well-being.
That's huge.
Yeah, because like we've said, money isn't just about numbers, right?
Definitely not.
It's tied to our emotions, our values, and our sense of security.
You got it. We often forget that our feelings play a big part in how we handle money.
Exactly. And when we ignore those emotions, it can create all kinds of problems in our relationships.
Impulsive spending, avoiding those money talks, even conflict.
For sure. So let's really unpack this connection between financial well-being and our emotional state.
Sounds good.
Because understanding that link is crucial for a happy financial life, both individually and as a couple.
I couldn't agree more.
Okay, so let's start with the basics. How does feeling financially secure impact us emotionally? What are some of those positive vibes we get?
Well, when you're meeting your financial needs and you're confident in managing your money, you tend to feel this peace, this sense of calm.
Okay, that makes sense.
You're not constantly worried about bills or stressed about debt.
Right.
That frees up your mind and energy to focus on other things like your relationships or pursuing your passions.
So it's like financial stability creates this foundation where other positive emotions can grow.
Exactly. And beyond that peace, you also get this feeling of empowerment, like you have choices.
I like that.
You have the resources to go after your goals, make decisions that reflect your values, and even take risks without that fear of financial ruin.
It's like having the freedom to create the life you want.
That's a great way to put it. Financial security isn't just about the money itself. It's about what it allows you to do, to live a life that feels right for you.
So true. But let's look at the other side of that coin. What happens when we're not financially secure? What are those negative emotions that pop up?
Well, when you're struggling financially, it can trigger a whole bunch of negative emotions, anxiety, fear, worry, all of that.
I can definitely see that happening.
You might feel trapped, helpless, even ashamed of your situation.
Right, and it can be hard to see past those feelings.
It's like this heavy weight hanging over you. And financial stress can impact everything, your sleep, your health, your work, and especially your relationships.
And for couples, that stress can really magnify any existing issues.
Absolutely. When you're already on edge about money, it's easy to snap at each other, misunderstand things, or just shut down emotionally.
And then those negative communication patterns we talked about start creeping in.
Exactly. The criticism, the defensiveness, all of that. It just creates this breeding ground for conflict and erodes trust in the relationship.
It sounds pretty bleak, but Joe and Daria's program is designed to help couples avoid those pitfalls, right?
It is. They recognize that feeling good financially is tied to feeling good emotionally. So they go beyond just the numbers and teach couples how to handle their feelings about money.
So it's like emotional intelligence for your finances.
That's a great way to describe it. They teach couples to recognize their emotional triggers around money, communicate those feelings effectively, and support each other through challenges.
Which is huge because people react so differently to financial stress.
For sure. One partner might get anxious while the other shuts down completely.
And that can cause so much friction.
It can. But Joe and Daria help bridge that gap by building empathy and understanding.
So instead of judgment and blame, there's this space for support and understanding.
Yes. It makes those tough conversations feel safer and strengthens the connection between partners.
This is making so much sense. It's like financial planning isn't just about a budget. It's about creating a healthy dynamic in your relationship.
That's it. It's about open communication, empathy, and support. That's what leads to lasting financial and emotional well-being for both of you.
I love that. So as we wrap up this deep dive, what's the one thing you really want our listeners to remember? What's that golden nugget of advice?
I think the key is to remember that this is a journey, not a sprint.
Okay, yeah.
It's about making choices that align with your values, being open with your partner, and asking for help when you need it. And remember, even the smallest steps forward make a difference over time.
Great advice. It's a reminder that we don't have to be perfect. We just have to keep learning and growing together.
Exactly. And if you're ready to take that next step, I highly recommend checking out Joe Gendron at agilecoachingstrategies.com and Daria Stellwag at dariusbudgetingcenter.com.
Great resources.
Their program can give you the guidance and tools you need to build a strong financial foundation for your future together.
Awesome. Remember, investing in your financial well-being is an investment in your relationship and your overall happiness.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive into premarital financial coaching.
It's been a pleasure. Until next time.